Praise Jesus, everybody. Thank you for joining me on the Michael Tobin Show. Fires coming. You gotta get out. California fires. San Francisco is smelling the smoke. And they've actually made a big deal out of it. Yet, 2 days ago, there was a 4.1 earthquake. And at the end of the article, it says, yet the nearest fires are 100 miles away from San Francisco. I want to talk to you a little bit about that. And Northern California fires, what we know and what we don't. An apocalyptic drone video shows postman delivering mail to ravaged Northern California homes, and whole towns evacuated as Northern California firestorms grow, and at least 21 dead so far. And here in Southern California, called Canyon Fire 2, because about a month ago there was a canyon fire in the same area, although these two did not intersect, but it was still around the same region. All evacuation orders are lifted as containment increases on Canyon Fire 2, and that is the large one here in Southern California. Yet there are many more fires throughout California, including here in San Diego County. There were several in the past few days. In San Diego County, the Santa Ana winds that have been going on for about 3 days, have been mild compared to Los Angeles area and the Orange County area, which is about an hour north of where I'm at in San Diego County. And in a few days it's going to warm up again. So that was the first of the Santa Ana winds for this season. It's going to warm up again in a few days, and we're all praying here in San Diego County that we don't have anything like what was going on in Anaheim, and certainly not what is going on in Northern California. So I want to talk to you about all this, so please hang tight, and I am going to end in a very, very wonderful note. So stick with me. I am going to peruse through several things going on in the United States and other parts of the world, and I'm going to get right to these subjects that I just listed. And you want to keep this podcast as a reference to this whole story of these fires that are going on. Tens of thousands of acres so far. So you want to keep this podcast as a reference to what's further ahead with the whole story when all these fires end, because there's going to be more, no doubt, unless by some miracle they don't. So the earthquake in San Jose, actually, it says this is from October 9th, 2 days ago, and right now it's 8:08 p.m. Pacific time. This is from October 9th, and today being Wednesday. But 2 days ago, Monday, a small earthquake in Silicon Valley was felt by many thousands of people, but there were no reports of damages or injuries. The magnitude 4.1 quake struck shortly before 6 p.m. just outside San Jose, which is home to 1 million people and surrounded by heavily populated suburbs. And by the way, this is what could have been adding a lot of insult to injury. but thank God it did not turn out to be anything catastrophic. But nothing will surprise us all, especially with Hurricane Harvey happening in Texas. At that same time, there was a hurricane on the east coast of Mexico and the Gulf of Mexico. At the same time, there was an earthquake near the west coast of Mexico, a deadly earthquake, and a few days after that there was another deadly earthquake. So while something is happening on our east coast, something could be happening on our west coast. While one type of disaster is happening in California, another type of disaster could happen at the same time. And we actually saw something like that back in 2011, I believe. I forget the name of the hurricane, but a hurricane was ravaging the Chesapeake Bay region of the United States, which is Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. And in the same week, that's when that 5-point-something earthquake hit Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., and even the Washington Monument cracked at the top, and I'm surprised it didn't topple it. And it reminds me of something that the book of Job records. Job said, the very thing I feared happened, and it's like watching out for a snake and at the same time being attacked by a bear. It's just amazing. Things are happening in biblical proportions here in the United States. So as I continue with this article, Twitter lit up reports from shaken people in the area. Most said it was just a quick jolt, and many wondered whether they had really felt a quake. Police and fire officials in and around San Jose reported no damages, injuries, or other problems. The earthquake came as the deadly wildfires were raging near the San Francisco Bay Area, though the closest of the blazes is 100 miles from the quake's epicenter. And there's several counties in the United States. Just last night it went from Mendocino County, it went from Napa County into Sonoma County. And Sonoma County, I believe, is where one of the whole towns are being evacuated, one of two. So, moving forward, here in San Diego, talk about biblical proportions of things going on. Hepatitis outbreak. This has been going on for weeks. One new death was yesterday. 18 total deaths in San Diego. 490 cases. 9 new cases this week. And 68,000 vaccinations. And the city is spraying bleach and water all over the sidewalks in San Diego, and they're trying to get a handle on the homeless situation. But this is hepatitis A. It is killing people, while a lot of other things are going on. There's a recall for California Governor Jerry Brown. A press conference and a rally is going to kick off the effort to recall California Governor Jerry Brown on October 14th. That's 3 days from now, Saturday at 12 noon at the Ronald Reagan State Building in Los Angeles. And going forward some more. In the Middle East, ISIS chiefs are gathering in Israel's Golan Heights in Syria and setting up a training camp. And I wrote a note, does anybody have a clue how significant this is to biblical end times prophecy concerning who Gog and Magog really are and how Turkey is already preparing for a definite attacks in Syrian cities, especially Damascus and Israel, specifically mentioned in the books of Jeremiah and Isaiah. And I list a reference to a friend of mine, Craig C. White, his website, hightimetoawake.com. Craig C. White and I have mentioned this many times in the past few years, and I've interviewed him on this show several times. And it's literally like a playbook being followed while so many things are going on with the NFL. P. Diddy mentions that he's wanted to own a football team for a long time, but now he wants an all-black football team. The shooter in Las Vegas, his house was part of the crime zone. It just got broken into yesterday. And how can you explain something like that? There's one more thing. There's an article came out in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Agriculture Secretary Perdue favors food stamp restrictions. And here another note that I wrote. If the average recipient is down by 6 million, according to this article, since 2013, then wouldn't the Trump administration be trying to take credit for a decline by reducing or eliminating food stamp benefits? So the decline that began 4 years ago, that should continue declining even without regulation. And according to this article, if Kroger and Walmart are the largest beneficiaries of the deal, wouldn't it be because they are the ones saving taxpayers more because they are the ones who have the lower prices for the same food products at other retailers? And isn't it already a fact that the able-bodied recipients of food stamps already get them decreased as their wages increase? If they're able to work, is this much ado about nothing? I'm just a lowly working stiff, but don't the brightest of the brightest comprehend this in Washington, or does it really matter what makes sense? And I have in parentheses sense with a C as a pun. I'm also a conservative, but I think the GOP should not focus on bamboozling the public and just get to work without the smoke and mirrors we accuse the other side of. And I wrote, cut the crap and drain the swamp. And and then we have this other guy going on that everybody is just talking about, Harvey Weinstein. Well, actor Terry Crews, he mentioned that about a year ago at a Hollywood function, a male producer who was very influential in Hollywood actually groped him right in front of his wife. And he wanted to deck the guy, but he thought about it, and he didn't want to be in jail the next day, and he just thought, what would the headline say? But he says that he feels for victims of this producer, Harvey Weinstein, and it is hard to come out with those types of things that happen until others actually come out about it. So he was trying to encourage people that he understands. So I want to leave it at that. That's kind of a brief update of things going on in and around us while the hurricanes are happening and the fires are happening, and God forbid not a deadly earthquake here in California. So Northern California, which was updated tonight at 6:51, and it's 8:18 right now Pacific time. And this is an article from San Francisco, SF Gate. Wind-charged fires across California have ravaged homes, businesses, vineyards, and farmlands over the last 3 days. By Wednesday, today, 21 people were confirmed dead and several others were
here. Yep, there.
Severely
of course, not
burned.
here. Yes, there. Cox Business delivers
and of course, these excuse that video there.
Consistently fast internet, no matter your location.
That's like being assaulted by news websites. You're reading and all of a sudden you hear these videos pop up. I hate that. I hate it. But anyhow, let me start over again. Wind-charged fires across California have ravaged homes, businesses, vineyards, and farmlands over the last 3 days. By Wednesday, 21 people were confirmed dead and several others were severely burned. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency and President Trump issued a major disaster declaration. Information from authorities and residents on ground continue to develop. Officials said efforts were focused on saving people's lives and trying to contain the inferno, so many details were not fully known. And this is the latest. So what we know, 21 people are confirmed dead, 11 in Sonoma County, which began burning last night. 2 in Napa County, 6 in the Mendocino County, and 2 in Yuba County. More than 110 people were treated at hospitals, many for smoke inhalation, but some for severe burns. In Sonoma County, officials said Wednesday morning that they had received 670 reports of missing individuals, but many of those people have since been located. At a news conference Wednesday this afternoon, Sheriff Rob Giordano said 380 people remained missing. Those looking for relatives and friends may file a missing person report with Sonoma County at 707-565-3856. And by the way, their sheriff was saying that just by doing patrols, they were finding people that were unable to leave. And they were not even in an active search for people yet because they could not be at that time. So because they're finding people without looking for people doing patrols, they know that the numbers are going to increase when they do start going door to door looking for people, or whatever doors are left. Okay, continuing with this article, up to 3,500 homes and commercial facilities have been destroyed in the fires, which are burning in Napa, Sonoma, Solano, Lake, Nevada, Butte, Calaveras, Shasta, and Yuba counties. How many counties is this? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 counties in Northern California, and that's not including Orange County here in Southern California. I'm going to have to mark those. 22 California fires have together burned at least 170,000 acres, state officials said Wednesday. More than 20,000 people have evacuated from fire zones, according to CAL FIRE estimates. The majority of fires were located in Northern California. The fires today were driven by northerly winds of up to 40 miles per hour and a dry fuel bed, with humidity levels at 8%. And by the way, it only took 2 days to get to 6,000 acres down here in Orange County. And the last fire, the first canyon fire, several weeks ago, it took a week because being minus any Santa Ana winds. But now with these 40 to 60 mile per hour winds also down here, it took 1 day to get to 6,000 acres with a 24-hour period. Whereas the last fire in that area, it took a week to get to 2,000 acres. At least 8,000 firefighters are battling 22 wildfires across the state, most in Northern California. Fighting resources include 550 engines, 73 helicopters, and 30 air tankers. And we have one San Diego fire battalion up in Orange County right now, and that's all we can afford because we have to be on the alert. There have been a few fires here also. Some of the fires tearing through wine country and the surrounding region. The Tubbs fire near Calistoga and Santa Rosa, was at 28,000 acres by today. The Atlas Peak fire at 42,349 acres. The Patrick fire in the Carneros area at 9,523 acres. And the Nuns fire off Highway 12 north of Glen Ellen was set at 9,523 acres. Same amount of acres as Carneros. In Mendocino County, the Mendocino Lake Complex fire, in which several fires joined to become one, grew to 29,500 acres. Vice President Mike Pence said President Trump had approved a major disaster declaration Tuesday, which will give California additional federal resources and funding to fight fires up and down the state. He said legislation that will be considered in Congress next week includes $576 million for fire suppression. Mandatory evacuation orders were in place for certain residential areas of Santa Rosa and numerous areas in Sonoma County, Fairfield, and in and around the city of Napa. Emergency dispatch centers in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, were being overwhelmed by 9/11 calls. Officials urged people to only call 911 for active unattended flames or life-threatening emergencies. The National Weather Service issued its highest possible alert, a red flag warning for 5 p.m. today to 5 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, in the North Bay Hills, and 11 p.m. Wednesday to 5 p.m. Thursday in the East Bay Hills. The service warned of winds gusting as high as 45 miles per hour. A number of historic structures and popular destinations, including Santa Rosa's luxury Fountain Grove Inn and the Signorella Estates Winery in Napa, were destroyed. Portable classrooms, the library, and the main office at Cardinal Newman High School in Santa Rosa was destroyed. The Luther Burbank Center in Santa Rosa was damaged. In Sonoma County alone, school superintendent Steve Harrington said more than 70,000 students were displaced by fires. And now what remains, this is what we know now and what we don't know. So what remains unclear. The causes of all the fires remain under investigation. Janet Upton, Deputy Director of the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, said investigators were examining whether power lines falling down or electrical transformers exploding Sunday night may have sparked some of the wildfires. Officials do not yet know how many people were injured in the fires. Hospitals reported treating more than 100. The exact number of damaged and destroyed structures was not known. The exact number of evacuees was not known, but officials believe there were about 20,000. 20,000 evacuees estimated. California Highway Patrol helicopter crews rescued more than 50 people from mountaintops by this morning, Wednesday. Napa County officials said Wednesday there was simply no way to assess how many people had been evacuated. How much money and how many resources, including an exact number of firefighters being devoted to firefighting, was not clear. Hundreds of firefighters from as far away as San Diego were assisting in the efforts. So we've got people up in Northern California too. The total number of dead and missing individuals was not known. And that was an article from K. Cray. So the rest of these references are going to be a lot less. Can't even think right now. A lot less detailed. So somebody was doing a drone video for, I believe, ABC. But this is an article from KTLA 5, Channel 5. Apocalyptic drone video shows postman delivering mail to ravaged Northern California homes. And this is one of the scenes that I'm sure you've seen TV. It looks like a whole area was bombed. A drone captured an otherworldly sight in Santa Rosa, California. U.S. Postal Service's worker dutifully delivering mail to addresses where only charred foundations remain after a fast-moving fire ripped through the neighborhood. So, it doesn't say, but the only thing I could think of is wherever there's still a mailbox, he can deliver it. If not, there's nowhere to deliver. So he has to be doing a survey on how many mailboxes are still there and how many are not on their routes. And this one here, whole towns evacuated as Northern California firestorms grow. At least 23 people dead. And this is from LA Times. This was updated 15, 20, 25, about 15 minutes ago. The death toll rose to 23 tonight, Wednesday, from the rapidly spreading firestorm in California wine country as firefighters were battling the return of dangerous winds that sparked new evacuations. All residents of Calistoga and Geyserville were ordered to leave their homes as firefighters braced for a tough fight overnight on numerous fronts of the fires. Napa City officials issued evacuation advisories for neighborhoods along the eastern edges of the city, warning residents to be prepared to leave. Meanwhile, a red flag warning forecasting dangerous fire conditions took effect Wednesday evening in the Bay Area. Weather officials expect strong winds with gusts as high as 50 miles per hour. Combined with dry fuels and low humidity, fires have the potential to spread quickly, according to the National Weather Service. And I believe San Francisco has like 15% humidity, which is low. And everywhere else is way lower, probably 10% and less. The warning took effect at 5 p.m. in the North Bay Mountains and will take effect at 11 p.m. in the East Bay Hills, Santa Cruz Mountains, and mountains in Monterey and San Benito counties. It's a good heads up to all the firefighters and emergency management that the conditions are going to be pretty bad in terms of the fire behaviors, said Will Pye, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. We're expecting the strongest winds to be tonight, this Wednesday night, and tomorrow, Thursday morning. State and federal officials portrayed an all-out effort to fend off the devastating wildfires at a news conference at a state emergency operations center outside Sacramento. It appears that this article has been edited since the first time I read it. I haven't even gotten to the point of how many residents were actually evacuated. Maybe it didn't happen. We'll see. It's an extremely stressful and challenging time, said Mark Ghilardici, director of the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. We are all hands on deck. The situation remains very dangerous, officials said. We're not going to be out of the woods for a great many days to come, said California Fire Director Ken Pimlott. The state is still feeling the effects of the drought despite a recent wet winter, and there's explosive vegetation fueling the blazes. And speaking of wet winter, I can't remember the name of that bay, but it was northeast of San Francisco, less than 100 miles, and it was a huge dam, the largest dam on the west coast, and that dam was damaged, and evacuations happened all downriver. That could have been a disaster. But going forward in this article, we've had big fires in the past, Governor Jerry Brown said. This is one of the biggest. Officials said 13 people have died in Sonoma County, 6 in Mendocino County, 2 in Yuba County, and 2 in Napa County. Crews launched a desperate effort to extinguish key hotspots before heavy fire-stoking winds could kick back up later in the day. Officials fear that strong winds forecast for Wednesday evening and Thursday morning will spread embers from the deadly Tubbs fire to populated areas in Santa Rosa and Calistoga that have so far been spared the flames. and new evacuation orders were issued. Shelters opened for evacuees will not ask for anyone's immigration status, Sonoma County Sheriff Rob Giordano said. And about those ambers, it was reported that most of the fires started from ambers getting in people's attics. Well, attics have these vents, and I always tell people, don't just have a vent in your attics, especially here in California. Have a fan up there. Plug it in, and you always have air circulating outside. So if these attics had fans blowing, no ambers would have gotten in those attics. And then there's a rare possibility that ambers could go inside soffits, but that would take a little trick of air circulation. But going forward in this article, we are facing some pretty significant monsters, Cal Fire Incident Commander Brett Covea told a room of about 200 firefighters and law enforcement officials at the Sonoma County Fairgrounds staging area this morning, Wednesday morning. And people with horses and livestock have been invited to go to that fairgrounds also. Exhausted and sore, firefighters fanned across scorched mountainsides, attacking hot spots, chopping shrubs, and using shovels and axes to clear smooth paths down to bare soil, roughly 4 feet wide as possible. They were taking advantage of a lull and erratic winds to extinguish as many embers as possible and contain portions of fires burning out of control near populated areas before north winds were expected to pick up after midnight tonight. Forecasts call for winds of up to 35 miles per hour on mountaintops and heavily forested ridgelines north of Santa Rosa and Calistoga. In a worst-case scenario, the winds would shoot ambers into still green terrain, igniting walls of flame that could march back into already devastated communities such as Santa Rosa. The clock is ticking, so we're giving it everything we've got. Hand crews, fire engines, bulldozers, air support to keep the fire within the perimeter, Cal Fire Division Chief Ben Nichols said, while using a razor-sharp blade to slice through dry grass and stubborn roots. We like fighting massive fires, he added. A lot of what we're doing isn't that sexy. It's called mop-up, and right now it is critical. Already, the Northern California fires have scorched an estimated 170,000 acres. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection estimates that around 3,500 structures have been destroyed. How much is left of this? I'm not going to read the rest of it. It's quite a bit. Okay, now finally with the fire updates of the latest here in Southern California, all evacuation orders lifted as containment increases on Canyon Fire 2. As officials continue to assess the damage caused by Canyon Fire 2, all residents were allowed to return to their homes Wednesday following increased containment of the 9,215-acre blaze. Crews had the fire 60% contained as of this evening, Wednesday, and expect to have full containment by Saturday, fire officials stated in an incident update. And that's only because this Santa Ana winds is going to be gone for a few days. The final evacuation order for homes off Winds Drive in the city of Orange was lifted about 5 p.m. And if you want to look that up, Winds is W-I-N-D-E-S Drive. So the evacuation order for homes off of that road, Winds Drive, in the city of Orange, was lifted at about 5 p.m. So that was like 3.5 hours ago. Several schools, including Anaheim Hills, Canyon Rim, Chapman Hills, Linda Vista, Panorama, and Running Springs Elementary Schools, remained closed today out of an abundance of caution, the city of Anaheim posted. Officials are still working to determine the extent of the damage caused by the fire. So far, 15 structures have been destroyed and another 12 were damaged, according to the incident update. And video on Tuesday showed 6 homes had burned in one Anaheim Hills neighborhood and several more in a neighborhood in Orange. And Orange County is actually the next county north of San Diego County, but that is actually north of Camp Pendleton Marine Base. So between San Diego County and Orange County is Camp Pendleton, and many of you know how huge that Camp Pendleton base is. More favorable weather conditions have recently helped firefighters slow the blaze, which began about 9:45 a.m. Monday along State Route 91 in the area of Coal Canyon. So that's it for articles and updates of what we know on the fires. And what I want to do now, in almost conclusion, is read to you a thought that I came up with a couple days ago. So here it goes. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about being a first responder myself in fires and hurricanes and what you can do to help also. I believe we all, this is my extremely encouraging pre-conclusion for today's show. I believe we all get it about sin, but not only sin, God delivers us from our sorrows, pain, and despair. In Isaiah 61 verse 1 through 3 it says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the afflicted. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to captives and freedom to prisoners." And this is a prophecy in Isaiah about Jesus, actually, to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance on our God, to comfort all who mourn, to grant those who mourn in Zion, giving them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a spirit of fainting. So they will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he may be glorified. Matthew 5:4, Jesus says, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." Luke chapter 6 verse 21, Jesus says, "Blessed are you that hunger now, for you shall be filled. Blessed are you that weep now, for you shall laugh." Luke chapter 7 verses 38 through 50. And stood at his feet behind him, weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with ointment. Now when the Pharisees which had bidden him saw it, he spoke with him in himself, saying, "This man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that touches him, for she is a sinner." And Jesus answered, said unto him, "Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee." And he said, "Master, say on." There was a certain creditor which had 2 debtors. The one owed 500 pence, the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. "Tell me, therefore, which of them will love him most?" Simon answered and said, "I suppose that he to whom he forgave most." And he said unto him, "Thou hast rightly judged." And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, "See this woman? I entered into your house. You gave me no water for my feet, but she washed my feet with tears and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gave me no kiss, but this woman, since the time I came in, has not ceased to kiss my feet. My head with oil you did not anoint, but this woman has anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say to you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. For she loved much, but to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. And he said unto her, your sins are forgiven. And they that sat at meat with him began to say within themselves, who is this that forgives sins also? And he said to the woman, your faith has saved you, and you can go in peace. In conclusion, 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 23 and 24, as Paul wrote, moreover, I called God for a record upon my soul, that to spare you I came not as yet unto Corinth, not for that we have dominion over your faith, but are helpers of your joy. For by faith you stand. And this is all about faith. God came to deliver us from our sorrows, our fears. So be encouraged by that. And now, I'm going to conclude with a short clip that I recorded earlier, and I explain my from 2003 to now what I have done with first response with the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team. So hang tight. Here it is. Hey, how do you like those sound effects? Well, I'm on my break right now. Here's some more. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Give God the glory. Let's hear it for God. Let's hear it for Jesus. Hey, thank you for joining me on the Michael Tobin Show. Hey, I just got a few minutes here. I'm on my last break at work, and if you listen to my previous broadcast, don't mind all the static and whatnot. You can still understand. I did some channel surfing past couple days. KFI and KNX, I think. But I'm encouraging everybody to download the iHeartRadio app, and whatever station you want to listen to, just tap the button and then speak into the phone and say whatever the letters are for the station, and say the city name, like KFI Los Angeles, and it'll take you right to the desired station. And that's what I'm doing here, listening to updates for the fires. Little previous background. 2003 we had the horrible fires, October fires we called it, here in San Diego, and it was a miracle that the Samaritan's Purse was able to get to immediately drive to California, because somebody in the organization said, hey, let's get California certified. As soon as they were done being California certified, these fires happened, and it, if you were here, and even as I'm thinking about it, it's enough to give you chills, because it was a total miracle. They were able to help in the Crest area, and that was my first experience with disaster relief. I volunteered with my church, as well as hundreds of other churches were volunteering all over the place. And as far as I know, the Samaritan's Purse, Franklin Graham's Samaritan's Purse, was the only out-of-state organization that was that came to San Diego and helped. So I'm helping clean out some ranch areas, people that have horses and everything, and cleaning out their property. And there was nothing left of homes. It was sad, but the homeowners were there cleaning up along with everybody else. And so I took a 3-day weekend from work. I actually had a job that had paid holidays and things. It was with the Home Depot. And I took a 3-day weekend and worked like a firefighter. Every day when I came home, when I took a shower, all this black soot would come out. I'd cough it out, and you blow your nose and it's all black and everything. And my face was black, my pants, boots were all sooted out. And I'm like, man. So all we were to do was to cut dead trees down, burnt trees. And so I decided, hey, let's make some firewood for these guys, because they all have fireplaces. And so I was chopping up trees and into logs and making a bunch of cords of wood, as well as, of course, raking, all the debris and throwing it in dumpsters and things like that. Then in 2007, the same thing happened. But in 2007, I had already been certified with the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team as a chaplain, because in 2003, immediately after the fires were all cleaned up, fire areas all over San Diego County, it was horrible. Both years, 2003 and 2007. But I attended some training, and then the years following that attended more training to be certified with Critical Incident Stress Management Foundation, which the University of Maryland is actually the main university who you could get certified for that through. And so the next year, 2004, after the 5 hurricanes hit Florida and Texas, it was the first time, I think, in 100 years back then, that they had gotten 5 hurricanes in 1 month, and within a month's time. And so I went to Florida in 2004. And then in 2005, I went to Louisiana. And that was right after Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Rita. So on the phone, they asked me, well, where would you like to go? So I'm thinking, everybody and their grandmother probably wants to go to New Orleans. So I said, I'll just go wherever I'm needed. So they were happy with that, and they sent me to Shreveport. Man, am I glad I said Shreveport. Beautiful place. Now Shreveport is on my list of places that I would like to live. But I've been in California since I was 1 year old. Born in Hawaii. My father was in the Navy, and he was born and raised in Hawaii. My mother was born and all her brothers and sisters were born in San Diego, and her mother was born in Los Angeles. So we're all California people. So, which explains why it's difficult for me to leave California like a lot of people are. But on my list of places that I'm familiar with is the state of Virginia and Oregon. And I could live in Virginia, I could live in Oregon, and now I could live in Shreveport, Louisiana. And so I responded as a Billy Graham Rapid Response Team chaplain in Shreveport. The following year was 2006, was the year anniversary of Hurricane Rita and Hurricane Katrina. And so then I went to New Orleans, and that was a total blessing as well. Because the people we ministered to, they minister to us, and nobody refused wanting to be spoken with. People would approach you and say, hey, can you say a prayer real quick? And of course we will. That's what we're there for. So I did that. So the last time I responded to a disaster was 2006, but the last time I responded to an event was March 31st in Sacramento, which I believe was Franklin Graham's March 31st of 2016. That was Franklin Graham's 13th stop, Sacramento, of his Decision America prayer tour. He visited all 50 capitals of the United States, including Hawaii and Alaska, of course. There's 50 state capitals. And So I responded to that as the chaplain. So it's been quite a while since I've responded to a disaster. Actually 2007 also, because of the fires here in San Diego County. So hey, I was just thinking that what was I thinking? Yeah, I know what I was thinking. All the places that I've slept. When I went there, I slept in a college gym. I slept in a church basement. I slept in a Kmart. I slept in a church parsonage, which, for those of you who don't know old-time terminology, a parsonage is a house where usually the pastor and his family live next to a church. And I actually slept in a small two-bedroom or one-bedroom. I think it was a two-bedroom apartment that somebody had donated use to for the Billy Graham Rapid Response Team. And I'm thinking of what did we eat? You know, we didn't really eat that well. We had a decent breakfast, bacon, eggs, sausage, toast, jelly, and whatnot, milk, orange juice. But during the day, for lunch, it was probably sandwiches and a lot of trail mix and snacks. And for dinner, there was one electric company that came to Texas all the way from Tennessee. Him and his crew, about 30 people, restoring power. They ordered, I don't know what it was, probably chicken and pizza or something like that for dinner. And they invited all of us, which was about like another 20 people at our location. And so that's how we ate. We didn't know what we were going to have for dinner. Jack Monday, he's the director of the Samaritan's Purse. One time, a few of us that were around, he brought us to lunch at a restaurant. And but you know what? The people in Texas, because of Louisiana and Texas, they are eating good still after Hurricane Harvey. And man, ribs, steak, chicken, all they are eating good. I guess the response, first responders ability has really progressed since I was out in the field. But when I look back, I'm like, those were the days. And but anyways, California fires, tens of thousands of acres have burned in the past few days between Sonoma and Napa County, mainly in the northern California, and down here in Southern California, about an hour and a half drive north of where I'm at, in Anaheim, which is part of Orange County. And that's just south, that's South Orange County. That's just north of Camp Pendleton Marine Base. So this was a mild Santa Ana past few days for San Diego, but up in the LA area and Orange County area, it was a fairly decent intensity Santa Ana, 40 to 60 mile an hour winds, and the heat was in the 80s, but thank God it wasn't in the 90s, which is not extensive, but a hot Santa Ana. So the next Santa Ana is probably most likely going to be in another couple weeks, and it's going to be worse, because as time goes, the desert, the Mojave Desert, east of us, it gets hotter and hotter through October. So the hotter it gets in the desert, the worse the Santa Ana winds get, and the Santa Ana heat gets all the way to the coast. And the coast will be in the 90s. At the beach, you're in the 90s, and you're burning up. You go in the water, you cool off, you come out, and you're hot again. And it's not really that comfortable. But pray for us in California. the next Santa Ana winds, pray that that we will be able to get a handle on fires and it won't happen. But I'm at a time when I could be sent out in the name of Jesus, to minister to people. If the Lord moves on you to help me out, just look at some of my past broadcasts. I usually cut and paste how you can help me out, because I really do need help, actually. So anyways, just wanted to talk about old times, how we got by about 10 years ago or so, and how people are getting by now with disaster response. If you're able to do some training and go, or just go out and be available, go ahead and do it if you're able. The Lord will provide as you go. So, hey, thank you for joining me on the Michael Tobin Show. God bless you, and have a wonderful day. I got to get back to work.
All right. That ends it for this broadcast. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day, and stay on your prayer toes.